Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast is here, and our Super Bowl 59 recap coverage is brought to you by the experts at Shore Physicians Group, Orthopedic Surgery and Sports Medicine Division. Learn more at shorephysiciansgroup.com. Well, we spent all week in New Orleans, and it culminated with a dominating performance, Adam Caplan, by the Philadelphia Eagles. And I don't know how many people had the Eagles just dominating the matchup, but they wind up winning 17 of their last 18 games. They had a 10-game winning streak, a 6-game winning streak, and they are the best team in the NFL, and it wasn't even close.
It was never competitive. Yeah, put that on your bingo card. I'm stunned. I know our Jason Avant told me. In fact, I interviewed him for Sports Grid. I know he was on with you and Jeff on Football at 4. Jason said it would be a 3-point game. The Chiefs win, or the Eagles will blow them out. And he wasn't the only player. I counted 7 former players thought that the Chiefs could get blown out. Of all the players that I interviewed for Sports Grid last week, I probably interviewed, 30 to 40 former players. Here's what happened, Mike, and this is probably what they were thinking. The Chiefs' offense has underachieved all season. Now, it should have been better than it had been. You know, they have speed. You saw Xavier Worthy when it was a blowout. He started to make some big plays, but it didn't matter. But they had offensive line problems. You and I talked about, Mike, with Jeff, the problems that the Chiefs had at left tackle. Joe Thuney had not played left tackle since college. He started doing it in the playoffs, actually late in the regular season. And Andy Reid and Andy Heck, the offensive line coach, decided to stay with it. Not only did they decide to stay with it, Mike, another thing that really surprised me was they're down 24-0. They cannot protect. Why not go with DJ Humphries, the veteran left tackle? He's over his hamstring problem. They decided not to do it. That was yet another mistake in that game, and it wound up costing them. But overall, like you said, it was never close. It was never even competitive. I had friends of mine, they finally threw the towel in for it being a close game, a competitive game. I have friends who didn't watch the game in the fourth quarter because they knew when they were up 37-0, I mean, there's no way that the Chiefs are going to come back.
Well, let's get into some of the reasons why. By the way, Howie Roseman becomes the first GM in the salary cap era to win a Super Bowl with a different, to win with a different quarterback and head coach pairing. Last time he has Doug Peterson and Nick Foles. Now he does it with Nick Sirianni and JalenHurts. Hardly anything anybody would have predicted when they took Jalen with the 51st pick and then hired Nick Sirianni as the head coach. I'm sure nobody saw a Super Bowl coming, but Hurts, he had an outstanding game. He's 350 yards, but he had a big moment in the running game because they slowed Barkley down, and then the passing game. He had moments in the passing game. He had moments in the running game.
Yeah, it's funny, Mike, because we were saying on our post-game show that all along we were concerned about Mahomes and those back-breaking scrambles when they're not designed runs. They rarely design runs for him. It's usually scrambles, whereas Hurts has plenty of designed runs. So what happened is a couple of those were back-breaking scrambles where they weren't designed. He happened to see daylight, and he ran. And, yeah, he was a leading rusher of the game. I mean, he ran the ball great. He had the shot plays. We'd said in our pregame show that they will have no problem going after Trent McDuffie, their best corner. He's really a better playing on the inside. He's shorter than 5'11". A.J. Brown has a couple inches on him. You saw that in the game. It was to the point, Mike, had this game even been within like 2 touchdowns, being how aggressive Kellen Moore is a play caller, I mean, they could have put up easily 60 points. I'm not joking. The Eagles didn't have to. They didn't have what we call passing tempo because they didn't have to throw the ball. But Hurts was very efficient, very accurate. The protection, for the most part, was outstanding. Yeah, there was a problem when Becton left. Tyler Steen had some problems. They gave up pressure up the middle. On Hurts' interception, that clearly they couldn't protect him. I mean, I know some people are saying he shouldn't have thrown it. That's a tough call there, but yeah, the ball was way short. But other than that, he was terrific. But if I was voting, I would have went Josh Sweat 1 and Hurts 1A. Josh Sweat had the best game as an Eagle. As a veteran coach told me, I was trying to figure out what this guy thought of the pressure rate numbers. He said three pressures is a good game. 7 is like ridiculously great, and it's hard to do. So Josh Sweat, who's a free agent, and Zach Bond did it again. I mean, it's just one of those things where, I talking to friends of mine, I always like to get a gauge of how they felt, how their team did. They were kind of in awe of everything. They never had to be nervous. Eagles fans are always nervous. If you're a Philadelphia sports fan in general, you're always nervous. How could you possibly be nervous going to the second half? I mean, they're up 24-0. I know you're always worried about Mahomes, comeback kid. He couldn't do a thing.
Yeah, no, and listen, I don't know if you were on at the time when we were talking about this, but we said Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, Zach Bond, all free agents. Yep. What better stage to raise your price tag? And all three of them, I think, got a little bit of a raise on Sunday night.
Oh, Mike, I got to tell you something. So this is Mike Caliendo. I called Mike, don't call him Frank Caliendo when we talked about your show.
Yeah.
So a guy that I know, I think he might have went to Western Michigan. Anyway, a friend of mine who's in scouting for another team told me, he goes, we didn't even give him a priority free agent grade. We got a game, a non-signing grade. Mike Caliendo had no business starting. I know that they wanted to keep the same left side of their line, which they had for 6 weeks. That was a mistake. As I said earlier here, they should have kept Tooney inside at left guard. They didn't even do it in the second half. That I hate to say that cost them the game. Well, that was a contributing factor. The turnover battle, Mike, let's not forget about that. Here, this is another part of this game, by the way, that stunned me. Of all people, Jahan Dotson made not one but two big plays in the game. One of them, look, the review showed that he didn't score. I mean, Jahan Dotson, Mike, he'll be their third receiver next year. He'll be on the final year's rookie deal. It's quite the story.
Big time story. And by the way, there was a bettor that put $1,000 on him to score the first touchdown of the game. How do you think he feels? 1 yard short, plus 8,500 for Dotson to score. And then,
right?
Yes,
man.
One of the things that got them in the first game against the Chiefs in Super Bowl 57 was the coverage, and the coverage was outstanding. By the way, how about this? 2 of the top 10 highest paid players on the Eagles were inactive for the game. Huff and Bradbury not inactive, but he didn't play. They are 2 of the top 10 highest paid players on the roster, James Bradbury and Bryce Huff.
Yeah, Bryce Huff at $17 million a season. The Eagles cannot get out of his contract unless they get someone to take him, and I'm sure they would have to eat a lot of the money. So, yeah, $17 million down the tubes. But you know what? We need to mention Howie Roseman. It's impossible to get every decision right. I kind of defended that one when it happened because I know how a lot of people in the league felt. Unfortunately, he's really bad in the scheme. He piped off, and unfortunately, he did it in an interview with a New Jersey paper. I don't know. In fact, I read part of it on the plane flying back Saturday, so that means he put it out before the game. That was not smart. No one really read it, or it was not talked about. I'll be interested to see if look, Howie's been willing to eat money before. I can't imagine Bryce Huff comes back. I know the Eagles have issues at pass rush with their edge rush going forward because of contracts. But Bryce Huff is really, honestly, even Jordan Davis got better late in the season. Anyone who dressed, Mike, almost everyone has contributed. Look, Johnny Wilson, I don't need to drop pass. He's had some really good blocks this season. Kenny Gainwell, really a good final year of his contract. Will Shipley's had his couple moments this season. So this roster's has been really, really good.
Well, let's talk about the roster and how sustainable it is to bring some of these guys back. You got key guys. You do have the core back, but some key guys. Becton would be key. Gainwell, not a key guy, but he has a role. Milton Williams, key. Josh Sweat, key. Zach Bond, key. Rogers had a role. Graham, is he going to come back? So let's take a look at your thoughts on the sustainability of this roster.
All right, so, Mike, first of all, their offense is pretty much going to be intact. All starters are back, other than Becton. They haven't made a decision yet. I'm sure they'll try to re-sign him. They drafted Tyler Steen for a reason. I know Steen was up and down the season. They had some really great snaps this season. Some were not good enough. In the end, it's hard to imagine Becton will be back because they drafted Steen to play guard, not tackle, which he played in college at Alabama. Gainwell really had a terrific season. Now, Barkley had one really good chip in the game. He really did, which was a big part of a big play they had in the game. I think, as a matter of fact, it might have been one of the deep balls. But bottom line is, Gainwell is the best pass protector. As we reported at the time when he was drafted in 2021, Nick Sirianni was instrumental in Gainwell being an Eagle. He pushed for him. Their staff loved him, and I got to give their staff credit. They, in fact, he was, believe it or not, they had a lower than I think, what was he drafted in the 5th round, 6th round, whatever. He was drafted a little bit higher when we were told than the grade that they had on him. So that was a good pick. Now, Milton Williams is going to be looking for Hargrave money. That's the feeling around the NFL. I gave that to our Patreon people a couple weeks ago. I still feel that way. It's going to be hard to re-sign him. They want him back, but it's going to be hard. Josh Sweat, I'd be surprised if he comes back. You change agents. You remember he took the major pay cut last season, almost 50% pay cut. He had a good season, great, best game as an Eagle in the Super Bowl. Going to be hard to keep him.
He had the best game out of any defensive end maybe in history.
I mean, he was
he was unbelievable.
He really was, Mike. And let's not forget, we don't talk about this enough. He's a terrific run defender, above average pass rusher. It's been a great story development as a fourth-round pick out of that great 18 draft for the Eagles. BG's got to make a decision. He's backed off of retiring. He has not decided yet. Look, you always want to go out on top. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. Why would he come back? But I would tell you this, though. That game he had in Week 12 against the Rams when he got hurt, he was unstoppable. He looked healthy, by the way, as healthy as you're going to get after that surgery. He had played 13 snaps. The big one that I didn't mention, the Zach Bond situation. I know he's want him back badly. From what I understand, he wants to be back. They've made it clear to his agent they want him back. The Eagles hate using them to do that. This is a priority for them, which is comical because we put this out at the time that it's unlikely the Eagles. We put this out probably somewhere around the Super Bowl, but maybe a little bit after it, that they were not going to bring that T.J. Edwards. They probably wouldn't make him an offer. And they did. And what they did with Edwards was they told his people, hey, before he signs, and we wound up being Chicago, let us know what you're getting. And then the Eagles decided they weren't going to match it. I know it's
Saquon Barkley'd them.
In a way, yes, based on the video, yeah. But with Zach Bond, I know it's not what the Eagles do. It goes against their organizational belief, football operations belief, really, to not pay inside backers. But they're going to do everything can. It's too early here, Mike.
Yeah.
They don't talk in contract. Teams don't do contract negotiations now. They wait. Agents don't want to do anything until they get to the combine because they want to know what the market looks like.
Of the three, do they have a preference or a priority? Like if they had to say, we want one of these three guys back.
I would say Milton Williams because it's so hard to find guys who could put. He is, Mike. This guy's no weakness in his game.
Is Oren Burks back next year?
Burks, yeah, he's on my list. I'll get to him in a minute. I would say Williams, Bond 1A, and then Sweaty. I think they're going to bring two back.
Okay.
Again,
that's optimistic.
This is a feeling. They're going to. Let's put it this way: they're going to do everything they can to do it. If it's only one, it's only one. Yeah. I definitely don't think they'll be shut out. Zach Bond, it's Isaiah Rodgers. Boy, he was really good, Mike, in his role as the third outside corner. I know the Eagles will want to bring him back, but they're not going to be able to pay him. And then Burks, boy, he did a good job.
He was great.
Now, what's that?
He was great.
Yeah, but late in the season he was. The first game he started to not play well. Then after that he's been really solid. They could not expose him in coverage, the Chiefs. I was surprised. See, here's the thing with Burks. The Eagles have to admit, if they don't bring Bond, if they cannot re-sign Bond for whatever reason, then they could go as high as maybe $5 million a season for Burks, which would almost be double what he made this season. So there are a lot of balls in the air for Howie Roseman in his front office. They have a lot of work to do. They won't get started till next week. We got the parade on Friday. He's going to have to go. I know the Eagles' offices are closed this week, but he can obviously go in if he wants to. But we'll talk. We're actually. I'll let you know next week. This is the way it works with us. We get started on free agency next week for Inside the Birds. We're gonna break down all the contract information, a lot of stuff that you need to know. We'll take you behind the scenes of what we know already, and it's going to be a fascinating free agency. But I have to tell you, Mike, I was never expecting it. I'll put my hand up. I was one of those who said I didn't think they were a Super Bowl team to start the season because they had so many questions, Mike, particularly on defense. And who knew that their defense comparatively would be a little bit better than their offense this season? I sure as heck didn't.
I know you got to roll real quick. Kellen Moore's going to New Orleans, in-house or somebody outside? Yeah,
we felt, Mike, we've been talking about this now for a month. In fact, we couldn't come up with another name. We felt that passing game coordinator / associate head coach and a very close friend of Nick Sirianni, Kevin Patullo, will get the bump up. And here's what one coach told me from around the league. He said, look, they're not going to want to change the scheme again for JalenHurts, who is, I think, this will be a minimum of his 10th different play caller in his football playing career. Remember now, he had his first 2 years, Brian Johnson 3, Kellen Moore 4. This will be 5th. This will be his 5th year with Kevin Patullo. It's been our expectations for about 4 or 5 weeks. What we couldn't get clearance on is, okay, well, what scheme are they going to run? We still don't know, but this coach, who knows the Eagles coaches pretty well, he thinks they'll just keep the same scheme. Don't change the terminology. He knows Patullo, and that's the way they'll stick it. Now, we'll talk more about this, Mike, on Friday's Football at 4, but I'd be a little bit surprised if they went outside to bring somebody in.
All right, there's a couple guys that have ties to Sirianni, Frank Reich, Mike McCoy, Doug Peterson is out there. That would never happen.
It will not be. Frank Reich has been, just so you know, Frank Reich, according to coaches who have worked with him, is semi-retired. I know Nick and Frank are best friends, but Frank's not a great play caller. I'm going to just tell you the truth. He's just not. I know he's a good coach, but he's just not a great play caller. I don't. And by the way, I don't know what kind. Then you'd have to change the scheme again. So we'll talk more about that on Friday, though.
He's back Friday. This is Football at 4. It's a Sports Bash. Adam Caplan, everybody. Thanks, bud.
Thanks.
All right, Adam, of course, here on the Sports Bash, and of course, our Super Bowl recap coverage brought to you by the experts at Shore Physicians Group, Orthopedic Surgery and Sports Medicine Division. Learn more at shorephysiciansgroup.com. It's the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.